God is the ultimate patron of the powerless. That's a way that Jewish scholar Jeffrey Tegay describes him in his Deuteronomy commentary. And I like that image. It rings true not only with Deuteronomy, but with the rest of the Torah and, in fact, with the rest of the scriptures. God has a meticulous concern for the individual, especially for individuals who are suffering, those who are oppressed, those who are in dire straits, those who are economically disadvantaged, those who are suffering from the weight that this world often places upon them. In fact, in the Torah legislation itself, we have several different kinds of laws that are established in order to make sure that justice, that mishpat, is practiced toward those who are oppressed, those who are poor. Deuteronomy 15, for instance, talks about how if there is one among the brothers in Israel who is poor, then those who are around him of means should not withhold money from that person. They should not be hardened of heart toward him. Instead, they should be generous. They should be charitable, lest that poor man cry out to the Lord against you, it says, and you incur guilt. That same language is used in Deuteronomy 24. And here more in the connection of a poor man who's had to borrow some money and given his cloak as a pledge, the cloak that he sleeps in at night, that he stays warm. Well, the person who lent him the money is to give that cloak back in the evening so the poor man has something to sleep in. And the lender can't barge into the poor man's home and demand his money back. And if he works, he's to be paid wages that same day, especially if he's kind of living in a hand-to-mouth existence, paycheck to paycheck, as we would say today. And again, the same reason, lest that poor man cry out against you to the Lord and you be guilty of sin. Now notice, God is the ultimate patron of the powerless. It's to the Lord that this poor man cries out when he is being mistreated. And that means that God has this meticulous concern for that person. His ears are open to their cry. He's tuned to the frequency of the suffering. God hears those prayers, and God will act upon those prayers as well, because he is a merciful and a gracious God who wants those who are oppressed to be helped, who wants those who are poor to have something to eat, to be taken care of by those who are around them. So the way it works is God first loves us. And we don't, as it were, build up a dam to stop this river of love that flows into us from God. Instead, it flows then out of us to those who are around us. The love with which God first loved us is the same love that we then extend to those who are in our neighborhoods, in our communities, wherever it is that we can use the gifts that God has given to us to positively impact the lives of those that God has placed around us. As we live out our vocations, whatever that might be, we become the mouth and the hands and the feet of Christ, those that he uses in order to give in charitable sorts of ways to those who are around us. So God, as the patron of the powerless, calls us also to be their patrons, to care for them, to be concerned about them. And should we find ourselves in a similar suffering, oppressed, poor situation, then I pray that God would put people in our midst who will be able to care for us as well. And in that way, we can be the conduits of divine compassion to those who are around us. And in so doing, exemplify the very heart of God, which is displayed toward us in Jesus Christ, who sacrificially gave of himself, and then through us works in sacrificial ways to care for those that he's placed in our midst.